Bartholomew Town, brought to you in part by the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, Half Street Group, and Newport Film.
Bartholomew Town.
All right, following up on an episode from earlier this week where a couple of members of the Cranston community joined me to express their concerns about the Cranston Police Department's gun range, which is proximate to a couple of schools in Cranston and also some residential neighborhoods. Those community members said that they are experiencing, number one, disruption, and number two, the psychological factor of the range being proximate in particular to those schools was something they were deeply concerned about. So in response, I reached out to Chief of Police in Cranston, Colonel Michael Winquist, who joined me. And the first question I asked him was, hey, is this range used by anybody other than Cranston Police on a regular basis, really getting to the root of that notion of frequency of usage and volume? And here's exactly how the colonel responded to that and his overall reaction to the interview that took place earlier this week. This is not a facility that is used with any kind of regularity other than by the Cranston Police Department. Is that a fair description?
That is, and I did hear your interview with Ms. DeMayo, and she tends to throw information around that's not accurate. We've never rented the range to private organizations, and there hasn't been a federal law enforcement agency using that range in probably close to 8 to 10 years. So I did listen to her interview, and that information was not accurate.
One of the things that she said that I was completely shocked by, and again, this was an allegation, but when I heard it, I was stunned and thought, if in fact true, it would be outrageous, is that there's semi-automatic weapons being used on any regular basis, particularly during the school day. Do your officers use, be it AR-15 or any other semi-automatic weapon that is just on a psychological level a bit more intimidating than a standard pistol? Do they use that? And if so, what sort of frequency are those weapons being used for training or otherwise?
Right. So, I mean, like probably every police department in the state and most departments across the country, we are equipped with rifles, especially in this day and age with active shooter threats and things that take place. So we do have patrol rifles issued to our officers, and also obviously they're semi-automatic. I think Mr. Mayo at one point said we were using automatic weapons, which is not accurate. So it's semi-automatic, and we carry a traditional pistol, 9mm pistol that most police departments utilize. And regarding the intimidation, I don't know. I would not categorize our training with these weapons, which is required for us to be proficient, to be intimidating. They're not meant to be intimidating, and I don't know if it's necessarily that they're perceived to be intimidating. I can tell you that the school department has come out publicly, and again, Mr. Mayo says somehow I influence the school leadership, which is not accurate. And they've come out and said that it has not been a problem. You hear these stories about people, climbing under desks and things of that nature. It's just not true. And we've done sound tests that we've done for Channel 12, and we've done it live, and we've monitored our activity, and we are not in excessive decibels at the school or inside the school. Matter of fact, when Channel 12 came out and we did the live tests with a rifle, it wouldn't even register on the sound meter at all. You couldn't even hear it. So, and this is before, a couple months ago, we have purchased suppressors for every single rifle that is fired up there, and that's somewhat new. And those suppressors have cut the rifle fire decibels down by half.
Gotcha.
So we've taken a lot of steps over the last 10 years as myself as the chief, a lot of policy changes, equipment changes, some modifications to the range itself, and we've done everything we can to try to be good neighbors, but unfortunately there's a handful, and I will say it's a handful of neighbors that continue to complain, and I don't know if it's the noise or it's fundamentally the source of the noise being a firearm seems to be the biggest concern of Ms. DeMayo and her people that have followed her.
What's your take on, as far as this notion of there was a track meet and some people were terrified by what they heard as gunshots, and then in response, somebody, it wasn't identified who, said that this is, in a simple version, this is good guys versus bad guys context, and what you're hearing are good guys. That seems difficult for, I don't know about an 18 or 16-year-old, but for some kids it might be difficult to discern. What's your take on that? Can you understand why some people might be spooked just to hear any firearm being utilized in any capacity? And if so, how do you communicate that to the schools and to the students in the community that, hey, you know what, this is something that is designed to protect you versus designed to cause any psychological damage?
Sure, I get it. So I think Mr. Mayo referenced a phone call she had with me. It was a little bit taken out of context and not 100% accurate. She told me she was having some type of party at her house, and there was going to be some younger kids going to the party. And she said, should I have my party? I said, that's up to you. I said, was there going to be any gunfire today? I said, I don't believe so. I think we don't use the range on a weekend, contrary to what has been said. And I said, well, we live in a society where we have to educate people, and whether it's younger kids, older kids, and at the end of the day, the reality is police officers have to train with their firearms. So what I said to her was, if they do hear a noise, and to be honest with you, when you hear the gunfire from a distance, it doesn't sound like your traditional, like if you were at the range, if you will. Like you hear a popping and crackling noise from a distance. And, if somebody did question that, I said, you can just tell them that noise you hear is police officers that are training to protect the city. And that's exactly what it is. So, if that conversation needs to be had, it should be had. But, there is a difference with police officers training to try to be proficient with their weapons, and then someone that's obviously firing a weapon for ill intent. There's definitely a difference. And I think if people question it, it's okay to explain that.
What about some of these ideas? I recall there was a discussion during the previous mayoral, which was last year's mayoral race. There was some discussion on this, and one idea that was floated was enclosing the range. And would that, in your experience, be something that's practical? And would that be something that, if presented to taxpayers as an option, would be not only practical from the standpoint of actually installation, but practical from the standpoint of it would do anything to significantly reduce that which some of these community members are complaining about, which seems to be mostly noise and a psychological piece?
Right. So we did, myself and the mayor and some of his staff did look into the possibility of closing the range and got a rough estimate on what it would entail and the cost of it. And it's somewhere north of $5 million. That's the facilities that we did kind of review. They weren't set up in a way that we could do all the functionality training that we need to do. A private range is usually a bunch of stationary lanes, that you're firing down at a target. Well, we do a lot of dynamic training, which means bringing in vehicles and other equipment that requires a lot of space. So it wouldn't be your typical, range that you see, in South Kingston or other places where they're private facilities. So even the private facilities that, again, would be a lot smaller and wouldn't probably meet our demands, is about $5 million. And then there's a huge cost in maintenance because of the lead buildup that takes place. So you're probably looking at over $100,000 a year to maintain a facility such as that. But I know, and Mr. Mayo mentioned that it was presented to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission voted it down. And, that's the process that takes place in the municipality, and then comes to where's the funding going to come from. So would we like a enclosed range? That would be great. But I do caution you, because the ranges that we spoke to that are indoor ranges does not completely eliminate the noise. As a matter of fact, one of the ranges that was fully enclosed said they still receive complaints from some of the neighbors on occasion. So it won't completely solve the issue, but again, that was discussed, and again, it never made it past the Planning Commission phase.
Last question, any other specifics that you heard in that interview that you want to respond to?
I just didn't appreciate the fact that somehow we were kind of made out to be we're intimidating people, and that's why people don't come forward. And there's been no indication of that. We have a great relationship with the community. I do believe the 80,000 residents in Cranston, the majority, understand the need for us to train and support the police department, and they want to make sure that their police department is fully proficient with their weapons and prepared to handle any type of threat that we may face, protect the entire city. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Colonel Winquist, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Good talking to you. Take care.
This call is...
At HealthSource RI for Employers, we provide access to health insurance to more than 1,200 local businesses and nonprofits, and 96% of them renew through us every year. Maybe it's our choice of 19 different health plans, our more than 10 years of customizing solutions, or our one local team of dedicated experts helping employers find quality health and dental insurance. See how our numbers stack up for you. Learn more at healthsourceri.com/employers.